Hey guys, well, the progress on the Nosen Mustang is very, very slow. And the reason for that is I was hoping that stripping the old covering was going to take, oh, I don't know, maybe an evening or maybe a couple evenings or something like that. And it has been a real chore. I got the covering off the top of the wing. My guess is this was covered in old solar film that's been on the airplane for over 30 years and was pretty well baked on. The top is stripped. The bottom, I'll show you what it looks like. This is what I was dealing with. Normally, for removing covering, you would start by, let's just say this is all covered. You'd make a slit with a knife carefully and just cut through the covering, start to kind of peel it up, and then use a heat gun as you're peeling the covering back. So basically reactivating the adhesive and pulling the covering off. With newer ARFs or airplanes that have been covered recently with a more modern film, monocoat, ultracoat, so forth, that method works. But this method, as I show you on the bottom, the clear comes right off, but it leaves the color, which is baked into the wing, and it's a real mess. Now, there are different ways to remove this. As you look at it, this side of the wing is pretty dark and dingy, and that side of the wing is, looks like wood. And I'll tell you why. So to get this off of there, you can either lightly try sanding it off, which works, but you're going to end up taking a ton of the wood with it. So I'm basically going to sand probably a good 1/16 of an inch of wood off the airplane, which is unacceptable. So what I did for this side of the wing was covering an area with a piece of paper towel and soaking it with either lacquer thinner or acetone, which will loosen this material from the surface. Then I went over it with a chisel, basically, and started scraping it off, which was very time consuming, but worked pretty well on this side of the wing, at least. I mean, it's still got some, stains on there. I'm not worried about it because this is all going to be final sanded. I'm going to trowel on some lightweight spackle on there, sand it again, then it's going to be glass. So this little bit of staining, not worried about it. But this side of the wing was a totally different story. Just to do the wingtip and probably from here to here took me almost a day by soaking it with the lacquer thinner and trying to chisel it off of there. And as you can see, all I was doing was damaging the airplane and even put a few holes in it. So I'm going, what the hell do I do now? This sucked. So, good old internet. I went online and I think I typed in how to, best ways to remove old covering. And a couple of guys said to basically pour some lacquer thinner on the wing and just kind of smear it around a little bit. But what I did first is I used Brutus right here. I call this guy Brutus. He is a evil little balsa eating machine, and I would go over the wing real lightly just to scuff up the leftover material that was on there, kind of get it kind of loosened up a little bit. Pour the lacquer thinner on in a spot, kind of rub it around with my hand, let it sit, and you'll see, like these little areas right here start to blister, start to kind of orange peel. Then I'd take a piece of 00 steel wool, soak that in lacquer thinner, and then just start wiping it, which would eventually get all that off of there, but at the same time it stained the wood. As you can see, it darkened the color. there's not a whole lot of covering, residue left over. It just darkened it. And that worked pretty well. I was able to get all this in about 20 minutes. So that's what I'm going to do for the bottom. It's very stinky, time-consuming, but that's really the only way to do it. The landing gear that was in there were the Likes retracts, and oh man, it was a chore getting them out of there. But it had these nice little doors in the top, which you had to, these were put in there because the retracts mounted between these two ribs instead of mounting on rails. It mounted to this rib and to this rib, so you had to get to it from top and bottom to get them out of there. So that's why these doors were used. And I think I'm going to keep these doors, even though they're not going to be useful once I put the Robart retracts in there. But once it's all said and done and they're screwed on, they look they look all right. They look kind of cool. So I think I'm going to keep those as is instead of just putting them on and glassing over them. As soon as I get the rest of this nasty covering off of there, the next step is going to be opening up these areas. This all has bell cranks in it, which, yeah, no. Not only bell cranks, but bell cranks with 256 unsupported wire. I mean, seriously? So I'm going to make some square pieces of plywood, just square covers, put them over the area, trace it, cut it out, put some reinforcement in there. So I'm basically going to make servo doors for ailerons and flaps on both sides. This is another hole I put in there, so I still have to make that pretty. And for the retracts, the Robart retract body will fit between here. I think I need to open this out a little bit more. But once I get them in there, I need to cut square channels out to put rails across to get the Robarts in there. So I peeled off a lot of this sheeting, as you can see. I didn't do it very well. Mainly because getting those Likes retracts out of there ended up requiring a hammer. So I did a little bit of damage to the wing getting those retracts out of there. But once I put the new rails in, get the gear in, then I'll put new sheeting on to custom fit right up to the gear and around the wheels and so forth. So that'll be next. Flying season is still not winding down. The weather is still looking good. We were out flying yesterday. It was 70-some degrees, real nice out. So it's been hard to get time to work on it. But so far it's just coming along slowly. Just wanted to give you a quick update of what I'm going through because this is turning out to be quite a chore. But as soon as I get some more work done, I'll bring you back. Later.